All right, guys, let's get into it. We're going to work on completing the square. Again, I know it's tricky. We're going to take our time and just make sure you're listening carefully and not just, letting the video play because it's really not going to help you. And then I'll show you some shortcut tricks that'll help too. So we're on page 19 in your packet. It says write each of the following trinomials in vertex form by completing the square and state the vertex. I would honestly start by finding your vertex by looking in the table. So x squared plus 6x minus 2. And remember, vertex is just another name for your turning point. So if we look at the graph, looks like, I don't know, -3, -11 maybe, but let's check the table. Wow, good guess. So if you notice, -10, -10, -3, -11 doesn't have a match. So that's your vertex. -3, -11. All right, keep that in mind as we work through. All right, so to complete the square, and just like anything else, practice makes perfect. I don't expect you to understand this right away or even after the first lesson. So we're going to group the x's together. I'm going to come down here and I'm going to write that same thing, but I'm going to leave a space to complete the square and put the -2 out here. All right, so now remember we cut b in half. We cut the 6 in half, which would be half of 6x is 3x. So x plus 3 is going to be in our parentheses, which I do want to point out, vertex form. Remember, you just take the vertex, the x value, put it in the parentheses with the x, and change the sign. Now here's the problem. 3 squared is not 9, or is 9. It's not -2, so we need to complete the square. So now we're going to go back up. If it really was x plus 3 squared, think about the box method. If I really had x plus 3 squared, I'd have x squared plus 3x plus 3x again plus 9. And that would end up being x squared plus 6x plus 9. Right now we have x squared plus 6x minus 2, all right? So we're going to put this perfect square in parentheses by just saying, okay, 3 squared is +9. But again, you can't randomly just add a 9 to an equation, so we need to subtract a 9 to balance it out. And when you combine those two things, -2 minus 9, you get -11, which is the y value in your vertex. So if you get stuck using this method, you could find the vertex first and then work backwards and write it that way. All right, so let's try another one. Go to y equals x squared minus 2x plus 11. All right, let's go and find the vertex. I'm going to look at the graph to see if I can find it. Oh, I don't even see anything. So let's go to the table. Ooh. Oh, I see something repeating down here. 11, 11, 14, 14. So that 110 in the middle is your vertex. All right. So again, I could, if I want to, I could write this equation and say, okay, no, it's y equals. The 1 goes in parentheses with x. Since it's positive, we're going to write x minus 1 squared, and then the plus 10 outside. That's your answer. But the official way to do it is, again, group your x's. And you don't want to lose the y equals along the way either. So I'm going to just space it out. So I have x squared minus 2x, and I'll leave a space, plus 11. Half of -2 is -1. So it's going to be y equals x minus 1 in parentheses squared. If it really was -1 squared, -1 times -1 is +1. So I've completed the square there, but I can't just randomly add a 1, so I'm going to subtract a 1. And together, those combine to give us positive 10, which again is the same thing that I got by taking my vertex, if I can find my mouse there, taking my vertex and working backwards. All right, let's just do a few more together. So again, let's group our x's together. And I'm just going to give it a little bit more space. So I have x squared minus 10x, and I got to leave a space to complete my square, plus 27. I'll at least put a line out there too to remember I got to add and subtract. All right, so I'm going to cut this in half. So it's going to be x minus 5 squared. And then if it was really negative 5 squared, negative 5 times negative 5 is plus 25. So I'd have to subtract 25 out here, and 27 minus 25 is positive 2. So if I had to guess, my vertex is going to be positive 5 and positive 2, because remember, you change the sign with x and you keep the y. Now, one thing I didn't do is put it into the calculator right at the beginning. So let's check to see how we did. Y equals, all right, so we've got x squared minus 10x plus 27 was our original equation. All right, so it looks like the vertex is about here. Looks like about 5.2, but let's double check in the calculator. Go down to where it starts to repeat. Oh, there it is, 3366. So that 5.2 in the center, there's my vertex. All right, let's do one more. You will see that there's sometimes numbers that are not even, so you can't cut it in half very easily. So I'm not actually going to go over those. You'll deal with decimals. Not something you need to know just yet. You're going to practice more with this in Algebra 2, and you'll really get into it there. All right, so I'm going to first type this in and see what my vertex is. Remember, here's your y-intercept, and it's an concave up. But all these things can be found very easily by going to this graphing calculator. All right, so my vertex looks to be, 2, -4 maybe. Second graph, look to where it repeats, so that 2, -5 is your vertex. And again, if you wanted to, you could easily write the equation right now. Y equals, the 2 is in the x spot, so it goes with the x. Just change its sign to x minus 2 squared. And then the minus 5 goes outside. But let's see if we get the same thing. So section off your x's. And I'm going to just expand my parentheses to give me room to complete the square. So I'll leave a space and then put the -1, and I'm going to leave another space. All right, so I'm going to cut this guy in half. So half of -4 is -2. So we're going to have x minus 2 in parentheses squared. So far, so good. It matches the one that we did below. And now go back up. -2 squared. -2 times -2 is +4. And I can't just randomly add a 4, so I got to subtract a 4. And we get -5. The same thing that we got using the shortcut of finding the vertex first. Okay, I do want to just show you how this one would work, because if you went to the graphing calculator, you're not going to be able to see the vertex in the table. Oops. But I can show you a couple of things to help. So if you go to y equals x squared plus 5x plus 4. If I look at the graph, it looks like it's about -2.5 something. If you go to the table, look for where it repeats. If you notice, -2, -2 is right next to each other. It's going to be right in between there. So I know by looking at this that my x value is going to be -2.5, because it's always halfway between. I don't know the y value though. So we're going to need to do a little work to figure that out. All right, so you actually do have to use this in this instance. But again, you would only have to do this when you get to Algebra 2. Nothing you have to worry about right now. So I'm going to expand my parentheses, give me room to complete the square. I'm going to give myself extra room because I know there's going to be a decimal there. And then my +4, and I'll leave space out there as well. All right, so we're going to do the same thing. We want to cut this guy in half. Half of 5 is 2.5. So I'm going to have x plus 2.5 squared. If that was a minus, it would be a minus here. They do match. All right, so second quit will get you here. So now I want to do 2.5 squared to figure out what would be here. So 6.25 is what 2.5 squared is. So I'm going to add 6.25 and subtract 6.25. All right, now to figure out what these are combined, just use your calculator. 4 minus 6.25. Negative 2.25. And that's your vertex. Again, even if it's a decimal, you change the sign with x, keep the y value. All right, so we'll stop there. It's really important that you get the practice in. If you notice in your packet, on page 20, we've got practice with this. And then on page 21, it's another practice with this. Unfortunately, this guy got kind of shifted down a page, so we'll just include that with the second homework assignment. All right, and again, these are going to be just practice with those things. They're all even numbers until you get to this one. D is going to be optional on page 21. Okay? All right, so just like anything else, if you have questions, stop by the Math Lab or email me, and I'm happy to help. If you are one of my hybrid students, we will be doing lots of work with this in class. All right, have a great day, guys.